Oscar Pistorius has been denied parole. That hearing has been underway just outside Pretoria this morning. Let's go live to our reporter Erin Bates. And Erin, we're getting confirmation of this news from the Steenkamp family. Is that right?
Correct, Timbukile. We have confirmation from Tanya Kuhn, spokesperson for the Steenkamps, as well as now the Department of Correctional Services. I'm going to read to you from the media statement, freshly out now. It says the department has received the decision of the parole board on the consideration of the parole application for Oscar Leonard Pistorius. Quote, the CSPB granted inmate Pistorius a further profile for August 2024. The reason provided is that the inmate did not complete the minimum detention period as ruled by the Supreme Court of Appeal as per the clarification provided on the 28th of March 2023. So really this is a decision that kind of boils down to crunching the numbers on how much time Pistorius has served behind bars. You may remember the term dolus eventualis, or culpable homicide. That was the original sentence he was mulcted with, or conviction he was mulcted with. That was changed after an SCA hearing to murder, and then there were some considerations about whether the time he had fulfilled behind bars by the time of the SCA decision, which I believe was around 2017, but I stand corrected, had any bearing counted toward his prison term for the murder of Reeva Steenkamp in February of 2013. So we know that there was input from June Steenkamp on behalf of Reeva's family. It seems, though, that from the Statement of Correctional Services, it was crunching the numbers that ultimately determined this decision to deny Blade Runner Paralympian Oscar Pistorius parole, a crushing decision, no doubt, for him, his family, and those who were hoping for him to show his back to Attridgeville Correctional Centre here today or soon after.
Erin, were we always expecting to have the decision or the outcome of the hearing so soon?
Well, that is an interesting question. The two attorneys I've spoken to who have experience in parole board hearings said that it can take days, weeks or months to have an ultimate decision from a parole board. And certainly talking amongst those here waiting for developments today, some consideration about if we had a decision for parole to be granted announced the same day as the hearing, whether or not that might open up the parole board to scrutiny, even litigation, for what might seem to be a hasty decision. No knowing really whether or not that will be the case now that there's been a hard no on parole for Oscar Pistorius for the time being. As we've heard or read there in that Correctional Services statement, he is up for trying again in August of 2024, but it's simply a matter of knowing now that there's a hard no. I don't have enough experience in parole board procedure to say whether or not this is hasty, but certainly if they dallied in announcing it, it would have found its way into the public domain sooner rather than later.
It's perhaps worth going back as we cover this breaking news for our viewers, Erin, to, as you were correctly referencing, the multiple twists and turns in this case from when Oscar Pistorius shot Reeva Steenkamp on Valentine's Day in 2013 to when the case happened. We remember it was possibly, in fact, I think it was, the most televised trial in this country. The nation was gripped, and this year marks 10 years since it all happened.
Indeed, and a very difficult time for Reeva Steenkamp's family. You know, we heard from Tanya Kuhn speaking on behalf of June and Barry Steenkamp saying 10 years sounds like a long time, but her saying this morning every year on significant days such as birthdays, Mother's Day, Father's Day, Christmas Day, they feel the loss of their daughter shot dead at 29 in that locked bathroom at Oscar Pistorius' property in Pretoria in 2013. Of course, similarly, Oscar Pistorius' family will have missed him at Christmas, birthday, Father's Day, Mother's Day celebrations over the years. And so there's a lot that's happened in the last decade. And it seems as though, at least for the time being, the life that Oscar Pistorius has become accustomed to living here at Attridgeville Correctional Services Centre will continue. It's not a comfortable life, although there has been reportage that it's more comfortable than it would have been if he'd been at Kgosi Mampuru, that high security prison where the gang structures are very actively in place. This is seen, Tembekile, as a much more low-key facility for low-risk offenders. And it was in submissions to court last year that Pistorius emphasized his good conduct, you could say, his participation in correctional services programs, his efforts as best he could, in his words, to remedy and correct himself, to rehabilitate in order to be a strong candidate for parole. And the provisions in South African law and our correctional services framework are for detainees to apply for parole if they fulfill the necessary requirements. And then it's the duty of the board to determine whether or not they've shown remorse, whether or not they've been contrite, whether or not they've been proactive in taking steps to participate in programs at prisons or correctional services center, and show good faith that they've learned from their mistakes and moved beyond being the person who committed the crimes for which they have been sentenced.
Erin Bates, thank you very much for that. Erin, keeping us up to date with the breaking news tonight. Oscar Pistorius, not tonight but this afternoon, being denied parole.